I have a hazy memory in my head of when I was around 8 years old living in Colombia. I remember watching a Colombian league soccer game on TV or something. I don't know who was playing or who was around me, but I do remember this.
Hay tiro de esquina a favor del equipo de Colombia.
Tiro de esquina, tarjeta de visto con la úsela en cada esquina.
This played for a generation. Ask anyone in Colombia over the age of 20. When you say tiro de esquina, they can finish that song. To me, and to anyone that watched soccer, the national sport of the country, the song became synonymous with corner kicks, which happened multiple times per game. So we became unconsciously conditioned to it, while also enjoying it. What it brought to the game, the catchiness and extra attraction. We can sing the song, know who the bank is, even if we don't use it, and know that other lovers of the sport, which is basically anyone with a TV, shares the same piece of music in their heads and hearts. We created a connection in a cultural context. Now if we pass by a Conavi bank, we feel trust. We know it, and we have an emotional reaction and connection. That is the most important part. Once we are in the need of choosing a bank for their services, who's the one that's already been in our homes, where we tend to feel the most safe and connected? This was 18 years ago. With the expansion and cultural integration of technology, how has audio branding evolved into what it is, and why would it work even better? Some of the main aspects of a brand's DNA are its purpose, its why, its positioning in the unique place in the minds of its customers, its promises, its personality, as well as its core values. In other words, how it engages with the outside world authentically. And lastly, the brand expression. Its role? To trigger immediate recognition and recall for a brand. Audio branding creates emotion, becomes embedded in the individual, community, culture, and becomes part of the identity of the brand as well as the clients. A good way of describing audio branding is the strategic use of audio assets used to reinforce or expand the narrative of a brand's identity. A study by Harris Group found that 72% of millennials prefer to spend more money on experiences than on material things. In an ever-growing demand of sound with an explosion in easy access to cameras, musical equipment, and the likes, small and big companies are making use of this, creating more commercials and radio spots, YouTube videos, and content on social media. The music, the creative copyright, and the voiceover have been a staple of the radio industry since its inception. The main problem with these types of advertisements is they're fleeting. Why is that? Relying on pre-existing music for an ad campaign is good, but it doesn't create a long-term emotional connection or identifiability to the brand. It's the reason we appreciate, remember, and compensate original songwriters and original music much more than we do cover songs. They create a new narrative within us where we feel we grow. The two main unique reasons for audio branding: speed and identity, both of the brand and how the audiences identify with it, emotionally, then psychologically. A study by Greg H. Recanzone on the interactions of auditory and visual stimuli in space and time explains that light travels approximately 6 orders of magnitude faster than sound and air. Thus, light will strike the retina virtually instantaneously in physiological terms, whereas sound does not begin to vibrate the tympanic membrane for several milliseconds. However, the physiological processing time is much faster in the auditory system compared to the visual system. Audio branding should be targeted at how the audience should feel towards the brand, not how the brand sees itself. In other words, if music is language, then through audio branding, the brand should start a dialogue, not a monologue. It's how the brand makes the audience feel, not how the brand sees itself.
Do you remember a time when chocolate chip cookies came fresh from the oven? Petridge Farm remembers.
Oh, those were the days.
Feeling like you're part of the story is what connects us. Audio branding can be used in so many places. It can be used in events, TV, radio, websites, call centers, social media, sales videos, apps, YouTube channels, podcasts, gaming events. The list can go on. If I had to choose a brand to work with, I would tell a story, not of the brand, but of its employees and how this relates to the customer. A musical story of how the product sacrificed to be who they are, to be what they are, and how it could relate to its customers through sound. Audio branding will also have more modes of returning on the brand investment. One way we will see this in the future is through voice systems such as Amazon Echo and Google Home. Per OC&C strategy consultants, voice commerce sales reached $1.8 billion. They're predicted to reach $40 billion by 2022. 13% of all households in the US owned a smart speaker in 2017. That number is predicted to rise to 55% by 2022. Lastly, 41% of people who own a voice-activated speaker say it feels like talking to a friend or another person. For Google, what does this say? The communication between human and technology will continue to expand into the audio and sound field. And if we are able to take advantage and connect using the languages of audio branding, will help companies like Old Spice stay ahead. Gary Vee said it best. Sound is visceral. It's emotional. It is the language of the subconscious, the unconscious, and one of the most ancient emotional stages of our mind. For ages, it has been a way to feel ourselves united as part of the human collective. We become united through music. I leave you with this challenge in self-awareness. Whenever you start singing a song that hasn't been popular for a while, listen to the lyrics coming out of your mouth and see if they are pertinent to your life in any emotional way you may or may not be aware of. It may take some time, but it will happen. Once you realize this colossally powerful unconscious mechanism our brain uses for expression, imagine going through the deodorant section of your grocery store and you make visual contact with an Old Spice bottle. What's your emotional trigger?